Cooperative Development Center. I have to apologize. I had this calendar, it dropped off my calendar. So I was like, oh no, thank you, Alex and Caitlin, for sending me a note and reminding me. So we're here to talk about investment co-ops. And Alex, I may ask you if you could ask people, how many people understand the basics of co-ops, or if I need to go through kind of the basic of co-ops first? Can people kind of chime in with that real quick?
Maybe a thumbs up, or if you know the basics of co-ops.
Or if you would like me to go through. I'm seeing one saying understand.
Yeah, there's a few that know, but it might be good to just go over the basics.
Yeah, maybe the basics is good. So at the end of the day, what a co-op is when a group of people come together and they create a solution utilizing the cooperative business model. So the cooperative business model is a democratically controlled corporation. In Montana, we have 4 ways of building a co-op. For childcare and investment co-ops, what we would be looking at is what's called a Chapter 15, which are for-profit entities. The key things about co-ops is that we have to have 3 people to build one, or 3 groups, or 3 entities. We can be a little flexible on that. But you have to have at least 3 people signing, saying, yes, this is what we want to do. And then what we, as they proceed in, the thing to keep with co-ops in mind is that they're always membership controlled, membership owned, and membership benefited. So the people that start the co-op really should utilize it, they should control it, and they should be able to benefit from it. Also remember that co-ops are democratically controlled, meaning that no one person ever owns a co-op itself. So no, like Alex and I could not be in a co-op, and even if Alex had maybe invested more money in it, she doesn't have more say in it. We're always equal. It's always one vote, one member. So that's kind of the down and dirty component of cooperatives overall. I'm going to pause real quick and see if we have any questions related to that, or if I need to go a little deeper.
Then you're welcome to either come off mute, or you can throw them in the chat and I can read them out.
Doesn't look like we have any questions on that. So everybody's good and golden on what co-ops are now, so we can move on. So what our office at Montana Co-op Development Center, a while back, what we started working on, and we used our counterparts in Alberta, Canada, as models. So when I say Alberta, Canada, sometimes I get this comment like, why are you looking at Canada? Well, something to keep in mind with co-ops too is that co-ops are a global form of business, but they're controlled very much on province state levels. So actually Alberta state laws or province laws and Montana has some pretty good similarities. And what they had started doing is utilizing investment cooperatives as a means to address local needs. So we had some great conversations, and I encourage you all to look up Sangudo, Alberta. They've done amazing work with their investment cooperative, or what they call opportunity development co-ops. So these co-ops are a way for communities to pull money together and then invest in different needs in their community. So our office has been getting a lot of phone calls to talk about childcare, housing, and workforce. But usually who's bringing us in at the front end of that is actually more employers or community members that are trying to address the need. They see the impact happening on workforce. They see the need happening in their community. But they don't necessarily want to own that facility. They don't want to own a childcare facility. They don't want to own housing units. They want to find a solution to it. And the investment co-op model is a means that we can create a solution for some areas. It's not going to be the solution for everything. So back up into Sangudo, what they did is they created an investment co-op model for their members of their community. It's a really small hamlet. It's a lot of ranching communities, and what they were working on was that they had an older building. that needed work, and they also wanted a meat processing center. And so they purchased the building, they raised the money, they purchased the building, and then they incubated a meat, like a butcher. It wasn't a full processing center, but they did the butcher. And then they also helped get him going with his company, or them going with their company. And eventually, as they started to pay that loan and that investment back, they were able to do the same thing with some other businesses. And now they're looking into housing and childcare. It's really a great model. So bringing it closer to home, we've had 2 communities now that have utilized the investment cooperative model. Our first one is the Muscle Shell Rural Investing Co-op. They're out of Roundup. And what that was a group of concerned citizens were wanting to save the Roundup Historic Schoolhouse. They worked with the school district and got it sold to a private developer. And then what they created is that through the investment co-op, a way for their community members, I think they're $1,000 a share, but community members put in money to this investment co-op, and then they were able to buy a share of the developer. So they have some say in what's going on. Not a huge say, but it just gives them extra ownership. Plus, it gave some extra financing options for that developer to move forward with this project. Now, they were delayed because of COVID. They are now back in the realm of moving forward, working on refurbishing that entire building with the intention of having a multi-use facility. Well, there'll be some apartments, there'll be some mixed use and some community and some business opportunity in there. One of the businesses that they've been looking at is potentially childcare. We're seeing it also. Gardner had created one for around housing. Though they are not in operation yet, what they did is the employers came together and they are pooling their money to start investing because they have so many homes going on the second, for second vacation or second homes, vacation homes, that kind of stuff, really impacting their workforce. So what they were working on is developing a cooperative, an investment co-op of the employers in the area. And this is where I think we have the lap over to childcare, is when employers can come together and maybe create an investment fund to help existing co-ops or existing childcare facilities, excuse me, and or invest in new. And so it's just a means. We have about 4 more communities working on it in the state. A couple are utilizing it to hopefully address childcare. So I normally have a big slide deck with me, which I can get you, Alex, so it can help describe and share, and we can share it out. But are there questions or comments, or can we open up a discussion on why are you here today and what were you hoping to learn? And we can kind of go that route.
Yeah, and you're welcome to just come off mute so Tracy can hear you, or if you really need to, go ahead and throw it in the chat and I can read it out.
Hi, I'm Jody Mitchell. I'm the director here at the Bitterroot Valley Chamber of Commerce. Ariella Fabra has kind of inspired me to get on board with the childcare issues here. So that's a big reason why I'm here. Another reason why I'm here is to come up with creative solutions for housing and other things. I mean, they're all encompassed. They're all together in this big nasty mess. But one of the things that I'm interested in is the Bitterroot Valley is growing tremendously with large companies that are wanting to move in. I'm on a call next week with another manufacturing company that wants to move here, that wants to have 2,000 employees by 2030. And these are scary. I mean, it's a great place to be. I understand why people want to be here, but we have a large hospital, we have labs with lots of employees, hundreds of employees. We have one that's waiting to move here, but our housing's a problem, and childcare, and we have childcare facilities closing. So that's why I'm here, to kind of help team up with Ariella to kind of come up with some sort of solution and education for our business community, because I know everyone knows it's a problem. I just don't know if they realize how big of a problem. So, yeah.
And oh, go ahead.
Oh, me? I'm done.
So I think, Jody, we know the Bitterroot area really well. You guys have been really successful with co-ops. It's been a good model for you guys in the past. You have the only existing housing co-op that has been there since, I think, 2017, 2018 with Riverside Crossing. And Julie Foster is your economic developer down there, and she is well versed in cooperative development. We actually had her as one of our specialists for quite a while. We would be happy to come down and explore the different cooperative solutions that could be addressing some of those needs that you were talking about. I do see crossover between housing and childcare. Whether it's a cooperative program that you want to use or not, I see that there is potential for housing and childcare to be working hand in hand because the needs are so significant all across the state. And so for those type of things, and I know Ariella and I talked a little bit when we were at 0 to 5 together, you guys could look at an investment co-op to maybe pool all of those monies. Maybe it's an employer investment co-op. The one that we were exploring in one community, and unfortunately the leadership wasn't quite there. Co-ops need some strong leadership. You need some champions, you need some people on the ground to move it forward. Our office cannot be your project managers. But the concept that this community came up with was it was a group of employers that wanted to invest in housing units, and they were working with developers that were putting up duplexes, multifamily home units, and they were going to pull their money together and put in investments, substantial investments in those units, but then they were secured for rent for those employees of those owners of that investment co-op. I could see the similar thing happening with childcare, and we've had discussions on that. I mean, Jason and I talked about this in a project in Great Falls for quite a while, that can we create an investment co-op that invests in either a new or an existing childcare facility to kind of help capitalize those, but they have like a first right to so many slots or something. Now, I'm also going to stress this. We have templates, we have toolkits, we put a lot of stuff out there. Never have I ever worked in a community that is the same as the one I previously worked in. Every community will have some different nuances that we need to address. And so that's where our kind of hands-on approach, working with 0 to 5 team and my team coming in and having those discussions in your local EDOs and whatever groups you need, chambers and stuff, pulling that together and having those discussions up front, and then determining, is a co-op a good solution? Do we need to get you other resources, or do you want to explore those? And that's kind of how we start those conversations.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
there is some really interesting examples of housing and childcare being co-located. So we're happy to provide those resources as well. If that's something of interest, please reach out to us. Yeah, really, really exciting stuff happening both in Montana and nationwide.
Yeah, and we have, for those that didn't join us on our last webinar, we have on our website, which is just www.mcdc.coop. Under the resources, we have a childcare toolkit. In that childcare toolkit, it talks briefly about the investment co-op model, but it also talks about all the different ways that the investment or the co-op model could potentially be addressing childcare. And so if you want to dig in a little deeper and explore those, and then give us a call, we can come. Normally I would say, well, yeah, we'll be there. We may have some travel restrictions coming up with what's happening, but we can definitely join you via, thank you, Richard, for sharing that link, via Zoom or something. And that time I'll make sure it's on my calendar so I don't miss it. Get registered. I even helped promote this one. That's what's so sad about what I did today. So thank you for the grace, guys. I really appreciate it. Are there other communities that are kind of in that same boat that want to share a little bit about what you're thinking or anything?
I was just going to say, so my name's Taylor and I work for the CCR&R in Billings, and I'm working with 2 different cohorts with 0 to 5. And so I'm just kind of here trying to get more information on how I can bring this information to the cohorts and what strategies or ideas that we can use to bring childcare to the areas that we're working in. So that's why I'm here.
And Taylor, Steve Simonson with the real estate group there in Billings area realtors, not quite sure exactly what his title. He's had us in a few times to talk about housing. Co-ops, we did have a discussion. This was a while ago. He hosted, or the Billings area realtors hosted a big conversation around housing. I know childcare was discussed there too, so there might be some natural fits and conversations. One thing that Caitlin and Alex and I have been talking about is like, how do we make sure as we move forward with the housing world, because there's so much activity happening in the housing world too, is opening those doors. So there's some collaboration happening. If a new housing unit is built, especially a new housing co-op's built, do we build in a childcare facility right there? Kind of looking at it with a more holistic approach instead of housing in this corner, childcare in that corner. So it's something that you might want to, and Taylor, if you want to send me an email, I'm happy to introduce you to Steve and what they're working on. So I think other information, we should have an investment toolkit coming online by the end of October. That's our time frame. It'll be very similar to what you see as far as formatting and stuff that we have on the childcare. But if there is any interest, you want to dig deeper, we have what we can send out. And Alex, maybe I'll just forward it to you. We have a frequently asked questions on investment co-ops. A lot of times you'll hear us refer to them as opportunity development cooperatives. Why we switch that over is when you say the word investment, a lot of times, especially from the business world, they're like, great, I'm going to get a lot of return. How much is that? And they want to jump right to that discussion. Investment co-ops, though there is potential for return, it's not going to make anybody rich. It is really about the social investment. It's really about finding a way to pull your community together to invest. Now, with that said, we do want to see viable businesses that they're investing in and creating opportunities so they can get a return, whether that's minimal or not. But, you know, we want to see that still happen, but it's not the primary purpose of a co-op.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for being with us today. If you want to just wrap up with the best way to reach you, and Caitlin will put 0 to 5 contact information in the chat, and then we'll let everyone go. Thanks again.
Yeah, so the best way to reach me is via my email. It's Tracy, TRACY, at mcdc.coop, so Montana Co-op Development Center, .coop, COOP. And so, chances are I won't be the one necessarily working on a project. I'll probably assign it to a staff member that's on the ground. But we're really excited about the opportunity to utilize the cooperative model to address childcare, especially in the investment world. I think we're seeing a lot of them pop up. So now is a good time for you guys to explore that if that's what you want to do.
All right. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.